The frost on the kitchen window made the world outside look like a painting James no longer wanted to see. He stood there watching his daughter Emma push eggs around her plate. The silence between them as heavy as the November snow piling against the barn. 3 weeks since they'd returned to his childhood ranch. 3 weeks of telling himself this solitude would help them heal. It hadn't. Emma was 7 years old and hadn't really smiled since the funeral. She ate because he told her to. She answered questions with single words. She existed in the same house as him. But they were both alone. The mansion felt enormous. Covered furniture lined the hallways like ghosts under sheets. His late wife's chair sat empty at the breakfast table, positioned so he had to see it every morning. He told himself he kept it there to honor Sarah's memory. Truth was, he didn't know how to move it. "Papa," Emma's small voice broke through his thoughts. "Yes. Can we light the Christmas candles this year?" He turned from the window. Her eyes held something fragile, something hoping. "Not yet," he said. The hope dimmed. She looked back at her plate. That evening, dinner was the same. James sat at one end of the long mahogany table, Emma at the other, 12 feet of polished wood between them. The chandelier overhead cast shadows that seemed to emphasize the empty chairs. She asked to be excused before finishing half her food. He let her go. After she'd gone to bed, James walked the property like he did every night. The cold bit through his coat, but he welcomed it. The pain felt appropriate, deserved. Even, he checked the stable, the fences, the equipment shed, at the barn. He tested the lock without opening the door. Snow had drifted against the entrance. No need to check inside. He headed back to the house, his boots crunching through fresh powder. Above him, clouds released more snow in silence. The porch light remained dark. It had stayed dark for 6 months now, ever since the night Sarah died. Inside, the house waited like a tomb. James locked the door and climbed the stairs to a bedroom he could barely stand to enter. Tomorrow would be the same as today, and the day after that, and the day after that. He'd return to the ranch seeking peace and solitude. Instead, he'd found a different kind of death. The sound came just past midnight, a child's cough, muffled but unmistakable. James sat up in bed, listening. The wind had picked up, rattling window panes. Maybe he'd imagined it. There it was again. He pulled on his boots and coat, grabbed the lantern from the hallway, and headed outside. The temperature had dropped viciously. His breath formed clouds in the freezing air. The sound had come from the barn. He approached slowly, snow crunching under his feet. The lock was still in place, but the side door he rarely used had hung slightly ajar. Someone had forced the old latch. James lifted the lantern and pushed inside. The light swept across hay bales and farm equipment before landing on them. A woman and a small child, huddled together under a threadbare blanket in the corner. The woman's eyes snapped open immediately. She sat up fast, positioning herself between James and the little girl. "I'm sorry." Her voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We had nowhere else." James held the lantern higher. The woman was young, late 20s, maybe. Her clothes were worn but clean. The child beside her couldn't have been more than 5, wrapped in her mother's arms. "Who are you?" "Martha Colby. This is my daughter, Lily." She didn't move from her protective stance. "Our wagon broke down about 2 miles back. The wheel shattered. By the time we got it off the road, the storm was too fierce to go on. You walked 2 miles in this. We didn't have a choice." The little girl Lily coughed again, that same wet sound that had woken him. Martha's hand immediately went to her daughter's forehead. "How long have you been here?" James asked. "A few hours. I'm sorry, we'll leave at first light." "In this storm?" James looked toward the barn door, where wind drove snow in horizontal sheets. "You wouldn't make it 100 yards." Martha's jaw tightened. "Then we'll wait until it stops." "It's not supposed to stop for 2 days." Silence filled the space between them. The lantern flickered. Lily shivered despite her mother's arms around her. James felt something crack inside his chest, small, but definite, like ice beginning to shift. "Come to the house," he heard himself say. "Just until morning." Martha's eyes searched his face. "That's kind of you. But you'll freeze out here, both of you. I don't want to impose. You already have." The words came out harder than he'd intended. He softened his tone. "The house is warm. There's food. You can stay until the storm passes." Martha hesitated, then nodded. "Just until morning." She gathered their few belongings, a small bag, a doll with yarn hair, and lifted Lily into her arms. James led them through the snow to the house, inside. The sudden warmth made Lily cough harder. Martha rubbed her daughter's back in small circles, whispering comfort. James showed them to a guest room on the second floor. Clean sheets, a fireplace, a door that locked from the inside. "Thank you," Martha said quietly. "We'll be gone as soon as we can." James nodded and left them alone. Back in his own room, he sat on the edge of his bed and stared at nothing. Outside, the storm intensified. Snow piled higher against the windows, just until morning, he'd said, but morning felt very far away. Dawn came gray and cold. James woke to unfamiliar sounds, footsteps in the hallway, a child's voice, water running in the kitchen. He dressed quickly and headed downstairs. Emma stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, staring. Inside, a little girl with dark braids was sitting at the table, swinging her legs and humming to herself. James moved beside his daughter. Before he could say more, Martha appeared from the pantry, arms full of ingredients. She stopped when she saw them. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I thought I wanted to make breakfast. To thank you. I should have asked first." Emma's gaze shifted from the little girl to Martha and back again. "Who are they?" "This is Mrs. Colby and her daughter Lily," James said. "Their wagon broke down in the storm. They needed shelter." "Oh." Emma's voice was small. Lily looked up from the table and smiled. "Hi, I'm 5. How old are you?" 7, Emma whispered. "That's old." Lily's eyes were bright. "Do you live here? This house is really big." Emma nodded slowly. "Want to see my doll Mama made her?" Lily held up the yarn-haired doll. "Her name is Rosie." Something shifted in Emma's expression, not quite a smile, but close. "She's pretty. You can hold her if you want." Emma stepped forward hesitantly. Lily handed over the doll like it was the most natural thing in the world. James watched his daughter's fingers close gently around the toy. She looked at it for a long moment, then back at Lily. "I have a doll too," Emma said. "Upstairs." "Can I see?" Emma glanced at James. He nodded. The two girls disappeared up the stairs, Lily chattering the whole way. Silence settled in the kitchen. Martha stood by the counter, flour dusting her hands. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have." "It's fine. She hasn't talked to anyone new since we left home. Most people aren't kind to drifters." James moved to the stove, poured coffee from the pot Martha had already made. "Where's home?" "Was. Colorado. My husband died in a mining accident last year. Left me with nothing but debts." She returned to mixing batter. "I'm a seamstress. I thought I could find work out west. Somewhere that needs someone who can sew. Long journey for a woman alone. Long journey for anyone." She poured batter onto the griddle. But staying wasn't an option. From upstairs came the sound of Emma's voice actually talking. Full sentences, followed by Lily's delighted laughter. James stared at his coffee. He couldn't remember the last time he'd heard Emma laugh. Martha glanced toward the stairs. "Your daughter, she's very sweet. She's been quiet since her mother died." Understanding crossed Martha's face. I'm sorry. 6 months ago. That's recent. Yes. The griddle hissed. Martha flipped the pancakes with practiced efficiency. We'll be out of your way soon as the storm breaks. James looked out the window. Snow still fell in thick curtains. Might be a while. We've waited out worse. But she didn't sound convinced. Emma and Lily returned holding hands. Emma carrying both dolls. They climbed into chairs at the table, not at opposite ends like James and Emma usually sat, but right next to each other. Martha served breakfast. 4 plates, 4 chairs filled. The house didn't feel quite so empty anymore. Emma took a bite of pancake, then looked at her father. Papa, can they stay? Just for a little while. James saw the hope in her eyes. Real hope. The first he'd seen in months. Please, Emma added softly. He thought about the broken wagon, the storm, the 2 miles of frozen road. He thought about the sound of Emma's laughter echoing down the stairs. A few days, he heard himself say, until we can fix your wagon. Martha's expression was carefully neutral. That's very kind. It's practical. But they both knew it wasn't just about practicality. Morning light filtered through the kitchen window's weak winter sun, but light nonetheless. Emma smiled into her breakfast. James didn't look away this time. 1 night became 3, then 5, then a week. Martha moved through the house like she'd always been there. She never asked permission, she simply saw what needed doing and did it. Mending curtains, organizing the pantry, building the fire each morning before anyone else woke. James told himself it was temporary. Just until the weather cleared. Just until the wagon wheel could be properly repaired. But the wagon sat in the barn. Its wheel replaced by the 3rd day. Emma and Lily were inseparable now. They built snow forts in the yard, played dolls in Emma's room, sat together at every meal. Emma talked again, really talked, and sometimes she even giggled. James caught himself watching them from windows, from doorways. Caught himself listening for Martha's footsteps in the hallway. It bothered him. On the 8th day, he found Martha in Sarah's sitting room. She was mending the curtains there, the ones he'd kept drawn for months. Afternoon light spilled across the floor for the first time since the funeral. She was humming softly, needle moving with quick precision. James stood in the doorway, frozen. This was Sarah's room, Sarah's chair, Sarah's light. Martha looked up and saw him. The humming stopped. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I should have asked. I just thought, it's fine. The words came out rougher than he meant them. I can leave the curtains if you'd rather. No, it's fine. But he turned and left before she could respond. That night, he sat in Sarah's bedroom for the first time since she died there. Her perfume bottles still lined the dresser. Her book still marked the page she'd never finished. Her portrait watched him from above the fireplace. I'm not betraying you, he said to the empty room. They're just here until they can leave. The portrait didn't answer. His wedding ring felt heavy on his finger. The next morning, the blacksmith arrived with supplies James had ordered weeks ago. The man took one look at Martha in the kitchen, at Lily playing with Emma in the yard, and his eyebrows rose. Got company, Mr. Dalton. Their wagon broke down. They're staying until it's repaired. Been over a week, hasn't it? Weather's been bad. The blacksmith's expression said he didn't believe that for a second. Town's gonna talk. Let them. But after the man left, James felt the weight of those words. Let them. As if it were that simple. That evening, he walked outside to check on the wagon. It was perfect, completely roadworthy. Had been for days, behind him. Warm light spilled from the kitchen windows. He could hear Emma's laughter through the glass. He should tell Martha the wagon was ready. Should help her load their things tomorrow morning. Should watch them disappear down the road toward whatever West meant for a widow and her child. Instead, he went back inside. Storm coming tomorrow. He told Martha. Big one. Better wait it out. She looked at him for a long moment. Of course, thank you. That night, for the first time in 6 months, James left the porch light on. He told himself it was for safety, for visibility in case of emergency. But in the guest room window, Martha saw it glowing. She stood there for a long time, one hand pressed against the cold glass. Outside, snow began to fall again. Not a storm, just a dusting, but enough. December arrived with frozen mornings and early darkness. James woke before dawn like always, went downstairs like always, but now. Martha was already in the kitchen, coffee made, fire burning, the smell of bread rising. She looked up when he entered. Morning. Morning. He poured coffee. She poured her own. They sat at opposite ends of the table in comfortable silence as light crept across the horizon. No words needed, just presence. It became their ritual unspoken, unacknowledged, but constant. The days developed their own rhythm. Emma and Lily played while Martha sewed and James worked on paperwork he'd been avoiding for months. Meals brought them all together. Evenings meant stories by the fire while the wind howled outside. One afternoon, while the girls built a blanket fort upstairs, Martha sat across from James in the study. Can I ask you something? She said. Go ahead. Why did you come back here? A man with your resources could live anywhere. James looked at the papers scattered across his desk. Railroad investments, property deeds, bank statements, wealth he'd built and barely thought about anymore. This ranch was my grandfather's, he said finally. My father's. I thought coming back would help Emma and me remember better times. Did it? No. He set down his pen. Just made the present feel worse by comparison. Martha nodded slowly. Lily asks about her father every few weeks, wants to know if heaven has horses. What do you tell her? That it has everything good. That he's waiting for her with a big smile. Her voice stayed steady. I don't tell her that he died because the mining company cut corners. That the support beams were rotten. That 12 men died because someone wanted to save $50. James heard the anger beneath the steadiness. I'm sorry, he said. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything. She stood, moved to the window. I was angry at him for a long time. Angry that he went to work that day. Angry that he didn't survive when 3 others did. Angry that he left us with nothing. That's natural. Is it because it felt like drowning? She turned to face him. How long were you angry at your wife? The question landed like a punch. I wasn't, James said automatically. Liar. He stared at her. She held his gaze. I was furious at Sarah, he admitted finally, for getting sick, for not fighting harder, for leaving Emma without a mother. The words came faster now. Things he'd never said aloud. I couldn't save her. Brought in the best doctors. Spent everything I had, and it didn't matter. She died anyway. So you came here to punish yourself. I came here to grieve. Grief and punishment aren't the same thing, Mr. Dalton. James, she blinked. What? My name is James. Mr. Dalton was my father. Something shifted in her expression. James. Then, from upstairs came the sound of giggles, Emma and Lily's voices blending together. She called Lily her sister today, Martha said softly. Lily, not just friend. James felt his chest tighten. I heard. This can't last forever. I know. Eventually, we'll have to leave. I know that too. But neither of them moved. Neither suggested when that leaving might happen. That night, James sat at the kitchen table after everyone had gone to bed. His hand rested on his coffee cup, the same cup Martha had poured from that morning. The same cup she'd poured from for weeks now. He twisted his wedding ring slowly around his finger. The metal was warm from his skin but felt foreign somehow, like it belonged to someone else, someone from before. He didn't take it off, but he noticed its weight differently now. Upstairs, Martha stood at her window, below. The porch light burned steady through the dark. She watched it for a long time, then climbed into bed beside Lily. Outside, ice on the eaves began to melt in subtle shifts. Winter wasn't over, but something was changing. The men arrived on a Thursday afternoon, two business associates from James's railroad investments, unexpected and unwelcome. Martha was in the kitchen when she heard their voices in the study. Sharp, aggressive, the kind of voices used to giving orders. She quietly sent the girls upstairs to play. "James, we need to discuss the situation here." The older man's voice carried through the walls. "What situation?" "The woman and child, this arrangement." James's response was too quiet to hear. "It's been over a month." The other man said, "People are talking. You're a respected member of the community. Your late wife was a pillar of society. This looks improper. They needed help. Then help them. Give her money. Arrange transport west. Set her up somewhere. But this her living in your house, it's inappropriate." Martha's hands stilled on the dish towel. "You're a widower with a young daughter." The first man continued. "Your reputation matters. Your business relationships matter. Send them away. She's not a servant. She's a guest. She's a drifter with a convenient story and nowhere else to go. Wake up, James. This makes you look foolish." Silence stretched. "Give her something for her trouble." The younger man said, "Be generous if you want. But end this before it damages everything you've built." More silence. Then James's voice, barely audible. "I'll think about it. Think quickly. We have shareholders who won't tolerate scandal." Their footsteps moved toward the door. Martha pressed herself against the kitchen wall, out of sight. After they left, she stood motionless for a long moment. Then she went upstairs and began packing. Emma appeared in the doorway 20 minutes later. "What are you doing?" "Packing, sweetheart." Why? It's time for Lily and me to move on." But you can't." Emma's voice climbed higher. "You're supposed to stay. Papa said you could stay. Your papa was very kind to let us stay this long. But we've imposed enough." "Imposed? What does that mean?" "It means we've taken advantage of his hospitality." "That's not true." Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. "Please don't go. Please. Lily's my sister. You're... She couldn't finish. Martha knelt in front of her. "Oh, sweetheart. You and Lily will always be friends. We'll write letters. I don't want letters. I want Lily here. Why are you leaving? Did I do something wrong?" "No. Never. You've been wonderful." "Then why?" Martha had no answer. Emma ran from the room. Her footsteps thundered down the stairs, then stopped. Martha heard voices, Emma's frantic questions, James's low responses, then silence. That evening, Martha brought Lily downstairs. Their bags sat by the door. James stood in the study doorway, face unreadable. "Thank you for everything," Martha said. "You saved our lives. We won't forget that." James nodded once. Emma sat on the stairs, arms wrapped around her knees, face buried. She wouldn't look at anyone. "Say goodbye, Lily," Martha prompted gently. "But I don't want to," Lily said, confused. "I like it here. Sometimes we can't stay where we like." "Why not?" "Because that's how life works." Lily's lower lip trembled. "Can Emma come with us?" "No, sweetheart." "Then I want to stay here." "We can't." Lily started crying. Emma started crying harder. Martha's eyes burned, but she kept her composure. James said nothing. Martha picked up their bags. Goodbye, Mr. Dalton. He flinched at the formal address, but didn't correct it. She took Lily's hand and walked out into the December cold. The boarding house in town would take them for the night. Tomorrow. The westbound stage. Behind them. The door closed. Inside. Emma's sobs echoed through the empty house. James stood in the hallway, surrounded by silence once more. Through the window. He watched Martha and Lily walk down the road, their figures growing smaller. He turned toward his study. On the mantel, the porch light switch waited. He left it off. The house returned to darkness. Morning came without color. Emma wouldn't eat, wouldn't speak, wouldn't look at James. He sat across from her at breakfast, the table feeling enormous again. Emma. She stood and left the room. He didn't follow. Instead, he sat in the silence he'd thought he wanted. The silence he'd returned to the ranch to find. It was unbearable. By noon, he couldn't take it anymore. He climbed the stairs to the third floor to Sarah's bedroom, the one he'd kept exactly as she'd left it. The door creaked open. Dust motes floated in winter light. James sat in Sarah's chair, the one she'd loved. His hands gripped the armrests where her hands had rested during the last terrible months. Her vanity held perfume bottles, hairpins, a jewelry box. He opened the box. Inside, beneath her wedding ring, was a small leather journal. He'd never read it. It felt like an invasion. Now, he opened it. The entries were short observations, prayers, hopes. He flipped through months of her handwriting, still so achingly familiar. Near the end, the entries grew shaky, weak. Then he found the last one, dated 3 days before she died. My darling James, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry. I fought as hard as I could. But some battles aren't meant to be won. I need you to promise me something. Don't let grief kill you too. Emma needs a father who's alive, really alive, not a ghost walking through rooms. I know you'll want to freeze everything. Keep my things. Keep your heart closed. Keep yourself locked away where it feels safe. Don't. I didn't fight this hard to stay alive just so you could die inside. I didn't love you this much to have you spend the rest of your life alone. When you're ready and you'll know when, let yourself love again. Find someone who makes Emma laugh. Find someone who makes you remember what warmth feels like. It won't be betrayal. My love. It will be the life I died wanting you to have. Don't be alone, please. Promise me. All my love, always. Sarah James's hands shook. The journal blurred through tears. A sound at the door made him look up. Emma stood there, eyes red from crying. Papa, come here, sweetheart. She crossed the room slowly. He pulled her onto his lap like he used to when she was smaller. I miss Mama, she whispered. I do too. But I miss Martha and Lily too. Is that bad? No, it's not bad. Then why did you make them leave? James closed his eyes. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of forgetting your mother, of betraying her memory, of loving someone new and losing them too. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then Mama wouldn't want us alone forever. How do you know? Because she loved us. And people who love you want you to be happy. She looked up at him with those eyes so much like Sarah's. Right. James looked down at the journal in his hands, at Sarah's final words. It won't be betrayal. It will be the life I died wanting you to have. You're right, he said softly. Mama would want us to be happy. Can we get them back, Martha and Lily? Would you want that? Yes. They're family now. Not the same as Mama, but still family. Emma's voice was certain. You can have more than one family. Can't you? James thought about Martha's quiet strength. Her gentle presence, the way she'd brought life back into this tomb of a house. He thought about Sarah's words, about Emma's smile, about the sound of laughter echoing through empty halls. Yes, he said, you can have more than one family. Then let's go get them. James stood, Emma still in his arms. Through the window. The sun was breaking through clouds. On the ground below, ice had begun to melt from the eaves. Water dripped steadily, each drop catching light. Winter's grip was loosening. Get your coat, James said. Emma's face transformed with hope. Really? Really? She ran from the room. James set Sarah's journal carefully back in the box. He touched his wedding ring one last time, then slipped it off. It went into the jewelry box beside Sarah's ring, together but not forgotten. He headed downstairs, grabbed his coat, and saddled the horse. Emma burst out the front door, bundled in her warmest clothes. Ready, Papa? Ready? They rode toward town together, morning light breaking fully now behind them. The ranch waited. Ahead, two people needed to hear the truth. And for the first time in 6 months, James knew exactly what that truth was. They found Martha and Lily at the boarding house, waiting for the westbound stage. Martha saw James first. Her expression shuddered immediately, defensive. Mr. Dalton. It's James. He dismounted, lifted Emma down. We need to talk. I don't think... Please. Something in his voice made her pause. Lily saw Emma and ran forward. The girls collided in a fierce hug. I thought you were gone forever, Emma said. Me too. James gestured to the boarding house porch. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Martha's jaw tightened, but she nodded. They sat on the porch steps while the girls played nearby. James struggled to find the right words. I was wrong, he said finally. Martha waited. My business associates came to tell me I should send you away. Said it looked improper. Said people were talking. He stared at his hands. I let them make me afraid. I let society's judgment matter more than what my daughter needed. More than what I... He stopped. More than what you what? Martha's voice was careful. More than what I wanted. She looked away. You have a reputation to protect, a daughter to raise properly. I understand. Do you? Because I don't think you do. James turned to face her fully. My wife died 6 months ago. I thought grief was loyalty. I thought staying frozen was how I honored her memory. That's natural. It's death. The word came out harsh. I was so busy mourning that I forgot to live. I brought Emma to that ranch to process our grief, but all I did was trap us both in it. Martha's expression softened slightly. Then you arrived. James continued. You and Lily. And suddenly the house wasn't a tomb anymore. Emma was laughing again. I was feeling things again, and it terrified me. James. I read Sarah's journal this morning. Her last entry. She made me promise not to stay alone, not to let grief kill me. She wanted Emma and me to be happy. His voice cracked. She gave me permission, and I was too cowardly to take it. That's not cowardice. That's grief. Maybe, but grief doesn't have to be the only thing I feel. He met her eyes. I came to ask you to come back. Martha's breath caught. As what a housekeeper, because I won't, as my equal. The words came out clear and certain. Not a servant, not an employee. As someone we need. The town will talk. Let them. Your associates will pressure you. They can try. Emma deserves stability, not scandal. Emma deserves a home filled with laughter, with warmth, with people who love her. James's hands clenched. I'm not asking you to replace Sarah. No one could. But I'm asking if you'd consider staying. Building something new. With us. Martha's eyes filled with tears. James, I don't know if... You don't have to decide now. Just come back to the ranch. Give it time. See if it feels right. He paused. The porch light's been dark since you left. She understood the weight of those words. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I." What if it doesn't work? What if it does? Behind them, Emma and Lily had stopped playing. They watched with held breath. Martha looked at her daughter, at Emma, at James. "I'm not good at taking charity," she said. "This isn't charity. It's—" James searched for the right word. "It's survival. For all of us." Martha stood slowly. "One condition. Anything. I pay my own way. I work. I contribute. I'm not some rescued damsel. You're the woman who taught my daughter to smile again." James stood too. "The woman who reminded me that houses are meant to be homes. The woman who—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "The woman who made me want to light the porch light again." Martha's tears spilled over. "Is that a yes?" Emma called out, unable to contain herself any longer. Martha laughed through her tears. "Yes, it's a yes." Emma and Lily erupted in cheers. James held out his hand. Martha took it. "Come home," he said quietly. "Home," she repeated, testing the word. It fit. They collected her bags. Emma and Lily rode together on the horse, chattering nonstop. James walked beside Martha, leading the animal. "This won't be easy," Martha said. "Nothing worth having ever is. People will judge. They always do. I come with complications. So do I." She glanced at him. "Your wedding ring is where it belongs. With Sarah's memory. But I'm still here, still living." Martha nodded slowly. As they approached the ranch, she saw it with new eyes. Not a shelter. Not a temporary haven. Home. The porch waited, empty and dark, but not for long. Spring came slowly to the Montana territory, but it came. James woke to morning light and the smell of coffee ritual and comfort combined. He dressed and headed downstairs. Martha was already in the kitchen. 2 cups poured. She looked up when he entered, smiled without words. They sat together at the table. Outside the window, Emma and Lily were building something in the melting snow, a snowman rapidly losing its shape to the warming air. "They're making a spring snowman," Martha said. "Whatever that means. It means it'll be gone by noon." "They don't care." James sipped his coffee. "No, they don't." 3 months had passed since Martha and Lily came home. 3 months of building something new from the pieces of what was broken. It wasn't perfect. Nothing was. The town talked, just as predicted. Some business associates kept their distance. A few neighbors stopped calling, but others surprised them. The blacksmith's wife brought a pie. The doctor's family invited them to Sunday dinner. Slowly, grudgingly, some of the community accepted that James Dalton was building a different kind of family. The ones who didn't accept it didn't matter. Emma no longer asked about Christmas candles. She simply lit them herself when she wanted light. Lily treated the ranch like she'd been born there. And Martha moved through the house like it belonged to her. Because it did. Some evenings. James still thought about Sarah. Still missed her. Still wished she'd survived to see Emma grow up. But the grief no longer suffocated him. Sarah's memory lived in Emma's eyes. In the piano music James played again. In the grace with which he tried to live. She would have approved of Martha. He thought, would have liked her strength, her dignity, her refusal to be anything less than equal. After breakfast, Martha cleared the plates. James moved to help. Their hands brushed over the same cup. Neither pulled away immediately. "The porch light was on again last night," Martha said quietly. "It's on every night now." "I know. I like it." "So do I." Outside, spring mud replaced snow. Birds returned to nest in the eaves. Green shoots pushed through thawing ground. The ranch that had felt like a tomb breathed with life again. That evening, James stood at the kitchen window, the same window where he'd watched Emma eat breakfast in silence for Months ago. Now Emma and Lily set the table together, laughing over some private joke. Martha tended something on the stove, humming softly. 4 chairs at the table, 4 places set, all filled, all belonging. James turned from the window and joined them. Martha's hand found his briefly, a small touch, but steady. They ate together, talked together, existed together in the warmth they'd built. After dinner, James walked outside to check the fence line. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Behind him, warm light spilled from every window of the house. Smoke curled from the chimney. Inside, he could hear music. Emma had convinced Martha to try the piano. The notes were hesitant but determined. Life, finding its rhythm again. James checked the barn, the stable, the equipment shed. The same route he'd walked that first night, when he'd been so determined to stay frozen. At the house, he paused at the bottom of the porch steps. Above him, the porch light burned steady. Not harsh, not desperate, just there. Constant. A promise of warmth, of home, of people waiting inside who chose to be together. James climbed the steps and opened the door. "Papa," Emma called from the piano. "Come listen. Martha's teaching me Mama's favorite song." He crossed to where they sat together on the bench. Martha shifted to make room. He sat between his daughter and the woman who'd helped him remember how to live. The music continued, imperfect but genuine. Outside, night fell completely. Inside, the house glowed. And on the porch, the light burned on. Every night, it would burn. A beacon for anyone lost in the dark. A reminder that even winter ends, that frozen hearts can thaw, that families can be found, not just born. James closed his eyes and listened to the music, to the laughter, to the life filling every corner of the house. He was home. They all were. And the light would shine for them tonight, and every night after.